Greetings. My name is Namdi Ele, the head of School of Architecture and Planning, welcoming you to the 2021 school year from my office. In the past, this would have been a contact lecture in the big auditorium, Dorothy Susskind Hall in the John Moffat building. However, in consideration and required by the rules of safety during this COVID-19 pandemic, we have all had to adjust to new ways of contact, lecture, and delivering information. In this year, we are going to be building upon the experiences we had last year. And what it brings to mind is the preparedness we have gone through. For those of you who have just finished matric and are coming into the university, you have had to adjust to new ways of learning. To colleagues, thank you for the outstanding work you did last year and for the preparedness you have to come back to work this year. The School of Architecture and Planning at WITS has a long history. It started as the Department of Architecture in 1922 by Jeffrey Pierce, the first head of school. His portrait is directly behind me. Professor Pierce was the first professor of architecture in South Africa. He was an adventurer, a curious man, brave. He fought in World War I. He was in Mesopotamia, a place many of us would know as Iraq. He was in Egypt. He was in India. After the war, he came back here and founded, many years later, the School of Architecture and Planning. He also wrote one of the first books on the architecture of the Cape and South Africa from the 18th century. So we have a long history. With changing times and changing needs, this building has undergone many transformations. Now, 62 years later, it is considered the work of modern heritage architecture, and we at the school are its custodians. It is particularly important to note that urban and regional planning was gradually introduced into the curriculum from the late 1930s, and a fully fledged Department of Town and Regional Planning was set up in 1967 at WITS. The history of the school is tied to the history of Johannesburg. Johannesburg is a young city. From the time that gold was discovered here 135 years ago, the city has grown rapidly, creating a demand for engineering, urban planning, and architecture. Our challenges may now be very different, but we take seriously our duty to equip students to perform in the economy and develop the skills they will need in practice. This is why we invite practitioners working in architecture and planning to the school to teach current practices and to exhibit their work in our Fessler Gallery and in the John Moffat Foyer. This time last year in 2020, we were renovating the foyer floor, matching to the exact specifications, the original materials and method of making according to heritage standards. We were anxious to have the floor ready before the start of the semester and the installation of the exhibition. presented by the practitioners, Buchartman and Partners, and multidisciplinary research studio, Future Path. The exhibition, which reflected on the design and management of communal spaces, ran from the 20th of February right up until the university closed due to the nationwide lockdown in March. As we reflect on this a year later, new words and concepts have been added to our global vocabulary, such as social distancing and self-isolation, and we interrogate these concepts as planners, designers, and researchers of the built environment. Making is an important part of what we do as designers and planners in the architectural and planning disciplines. The translation of thought into material form is a key element of the design process. The design studios at SOAP provide environments in which our students can develop their skills, experiment with approaches, and imagine the built environment in new ways. The school workshop is one of the places where students are also able to engage in interdisciplinary research, exploring craft, visual arts, film, photography, and technology. Regular exhibition of students' work at the school provides us with a platform for students to present ideas to a wider public. In previous years, exhibitions such as Utopia Project in the first year of architecture focused on the creation of new worlds and collective narratives as a way of rethinking spatial paradigms. Along this line of thinking, we know that innovation did not start today. We look at the ancient cities, modern cities, and we also look at how they are planned. For students in exit levels, the end of the year exhibitions are a rite of passage as they present their research to fellow citizens and practitioners. It is the culmination of their academic investigation of design and planning before they begin a new life in the world of work. In 2019, an all-school exhibition was held in the Solomon Mashlangu concourse as well as in the John Moffat building. This was our outreach to other faculties and discipline groups gathered at Wits University. The exhibition stands where handmade from recycled materials by students and staff, showing that a focus on sustainability and reuse is taken through to the level of the detail. The pandemic has called for adaptations in the spaces of teaching and learning. In 2020, the end of the year exhibition was moved to a virtual platform. This also brought the unexpected advantage of being able to connect with a global audience. This initiative gives us an opportunity to showcase SOAP's particular strength in the bringing together of the architecture and planning programs in one school. As I welcome you to the new school year, to the students, we are glad that you have entrusted us with your education. We are looking forward to a time when we may resume our community life, and I am hoping that in due course, I will be able to share these spaces that I have been describing with you again in person. Welcome to 2021.